What up, though? My name is KG the Kid, and you have officially tuned in to Crowned Confessions and Conversations, where you can expect authentic discussion about life, relationships, current events, and everything in between, all from a faith perspective. Let's get it. What up, though? I am so excited to welcome you all back to Crown Confessions and Conversations. I know it's been a minute. I've been on a bit of a hiatus. I had a couple people hit me up like, yo, when's the next episode of the podcast coming out? A lot of stuff going on, a lot of life. Had a couple things I needed to square away and deal with before I found myself in a space where I was ready to produce again. So here I am. As you can probably hear, that is my blinker going because I am in my car. This particular episode is going to be called Car Confessions. If you know me, I spend a lot of time in my car. I drive a lot. Driving is actually extremely therapeutic for me. And I just thought about it. I was like, wow, like I might as well just go ahead and record an episode in my car. So no mic, it's all headphones, recording this off my cell phone, so hopefully it sounds right. I definitely want to first take the opportunity to thank my little brother. I've gotten a lot of great feedback on the last episode of the podcast called Fall Away, and I just want to take the opportunity to definitely recognize and thank my little brother John for coming on and being himself, being open and honest. We both learned a lot through that episode, including me even just still processing so many different things that came with recording that episode and listening to that episode and a lot of the feedback that I got from that episode. So shout out to my little brother for sliding through and being honest, and shout out to all the people who I've had on the podcast so far. I really wanted to take this particular episode and talk about something that really has been kind of just raining very true to me. And for about a year or so now, my sister Kenya and I have been having these really open discussions about the need for grace. Grace is something that, the scripture tells us, God's grace is sufficient. And it reminds us that no matter where we go, no matter what we experience, the good, the bad, the indifferent, and even those moments that we walk into that we know good and well we've gotten pure instruction and direction on, and we do the complete opposite end, God is still willing and ready and waiting with open arms to not only forgive us, but to take us back and to love on us and remind us that we are still His. And that's just I've really been meditating on that a lot. But if I go and think about it even more, what I've really been thinking about is something I want to say. I want to say to the working woman who is doing all that she can to, hustle and grind and make her dreams come true and see the full potential of every ambition that she's ever had, to the stay-at-home mom who is giving her kids the best that she got, keeping her household together, loving on her husband, and still making time for herself, to the single parent who is going out and doing all that she can in order to be the best version of herself so that her children get the best of every world possible laid at their feet. And to every other woman in between and in the middle, to the ones who have not figured out what their dreams and ambitions are just yet, who are trying to, keep it together sometimes, and they feel like it's literally being kept together with bubble gum and paper clips. This is for all of you, including myself. Girl, there is grace for you. And not only that, sis, give yourself grace. One of the most profound conversations I've ever had with my grandmother before she passed, a true matriarch in every sense of the word. She was one of those people who could, tell you the truth about yourself in love and then bake a pie that'll make you feel better about the fact that she just went off on you. I remember kicking it with her a couple years ago, and I was upset with my mom. I love my mom, don't get me wrong. She's a great woman, but she's human. And just like she's human, I'm human too. And sometimes we do things that we don't necessarily understand or we just don't approve of. But she did something, I don't even know what it was, honestly, like at this point. But I know I was just so frustrated. And my grandmother, my Granny Betty, she was my diary. Like, she literally held all my secrets. So in moments like that, I would call, and I don't even know if my mom knows this, but I would call Betty and tell on her. So when I was frustrated and irritated, I would call down to Texas and talk to Grams, and I would just tell her, like, yo, this is what's going on. This is how I'm feeling, like, blah, blah, blah. And one of the things she looked at me on this particular day when I called her and I told her, like, I was frustrated with my mom, she just told me, she said, you know, Kendra, I'm going to say something to you that you may not like, but it's something that I know you need to hear right now. Before she was your mother, she was a woman. After becoming your mother, she is still a woman. Give her grace. And I was in my 20s when my grandmother said that to me. And though I didn't necessarily care for what she was saying, because I really just wanted her to be on my side, but she wasn't that type of woman. Like, she wasn't just gonna be on my side, so I kind of knew what I was getting into when I called her. Her telling me that has always stuck with me, especially in my 30s. It's reminded me that there are going to be times, even in my life, as, you know, I think I'm a pretty good human being. I try to do things the best way I know how to, for the most part. There are moments when, you know, I choose violence. I'm not going to sit here and lie, because that's lying. But I've held on to that lesson because it's always reminded me that there are going to be areas in my own life that even if I don't understand what's going on, or everybody else outside of my situation knows what's going on, I still want them to give me grace. You know, sometimes grace because I just don't know and I have a lack of knowledge and a lack of understanding. Sometimes grace because I may not necessarily know how to operate from the place that they want me to. And very often, a lot of our disappointments in people is based off of our own expectations that we have off of them, and not the expectations that they've actually stepped up to in our lives. Whole different discussion. But give me grace. Like, I need grace. And it's also been a reminder to give grace to those around me. And, you know, I know that there are men who listen to the podcast, and that's no shade, fellas. I got love for y'all. Y'all already know that. But I have to talk to the women right now, because very often society puts so much pressure on women to produce, to do it all and still be, you know, immaculately fine at the end of the day, physically, you know, and mentally and emotionally, like, fine, like you're fine, but fine, like, ooh, look at you, sis. Like, I've realized that there are so many pressures of life on top of the things that we desire for ourselves beyond what we already have. And I just want to give somebody the wisdom that, you know, this amazing woman of God gave me. Like, give yourself some grace, sis. Like, you need it. We all need it. We all need grace sometimes. Like, we get so stuck and caught up with, well, if I was this person, I would do it this way, and I would do it this way. It's so crazy to think about how people are so quick to be like, if I was in this situation, I would rock and roll and I would do this, and I would say, and such and such wouldn't do this, and whoop whoop. And don't get me wrong, it's beautiful when we know ourselves, when we have a clear cut precision thought process as to who we are. But I guarantee you there are some blind spots that we all have about ourselves. And if you really sat and kicked it with the closest 5 people to you, you might be surprised about whether or not you know yourself. And even if you do know yourself, just how your response in a certain situation might have been perceived as something different. So sometimes we get so caught up in, well, I wouldn't have did this, I would have did this, that we don't even stop and realize, like, yeah, maybe you wouldn't have did this, but you probably would have ended up acting completely worse than that person responded. Or maybe you wouldn't have did this or whatever else, but you also haven't seen or experienced what that person went through in their own life. You just know a part of their story. Because the truth is, no matter how much or no matter how vulnerable we're all willing to be, there's still part of our story that we might not be willing to share with other people. There are some things that I only murmur between me and God. You know, I love my friends as a writer, as a creator, even as a podcaster. You know, there are a lot of things about me and who I am that I share with people. But then there are things that I'm just like, I don't know if this is safe anywhere but between me and God. Give each other grace. Give yourself grace, because some of us are just out here trying to figure it out the best way that we know how. Some of us didn't grow up in situations or spaces and places that were necessarily the most conducive to make us the most trusting. Some of us have had to work overly hard to operate on a day-to-day basis for weeks, and we're afraid to admit out loud that we're really trying to overcome the best way that we know how, but still don't have hope for what's to come tomorrow. Some of us are really out here giving the very best that we got, and unfortunately it's still not enough. Some of us are just tired and we need a nap, and it will feel really good to just have certain things taken off of our plate so that we can be in a better place. Some of us are wishing, hoping, and believing for the next part of our lives and holding on with full fervency that God is going to do exactly what he said he's going to do, but we got a couple bruises and scars along the way. Some of us are still learning ourselves and being honest about that. And it's okay, because all of us need grace. Yeah. I think that's really what it is. We all need grace. No matter where we are in life, no matter how accomplished we are, no matter what we've started or finished, no matter what our career is, no matter if you're a wife, a mom, if you're an auntie, your grandmother, or whoever else, you are still a woman. And for that alone, you need grace. Yeah. So, today's episode isn't going to be that long. My car ride wasn't that long, apparently. But I hope that this is a reminder that it's okay for you to need grace, sis, because we all need it. My prayer and my hope is that you feel encouraged, that you feel loved, that you feel seen, no matter where you are in your journey. And know that just like you, I need grace too.
Trying to make this thing move.
I appreciate you for tuning in. I hope something that was said encouraged you and reminded you of God's plan for your life. Remember, keep your hands clean and don't forget to adjust your crown.
Before moms met pops, Christ had paid the fee, and every time I slip up and forget who I